The war in Yemen is spreading over the border. Houthi rebels launched a missile deep into Saudi Arabia, changing political and military calculations. So what's the next step in this long-running conflict? This is Inside Story. I'm Richelle Carey. Welcome to the program. In the 2 years since the Saudi-led coalition intervened in Yemen's civil war, fighting has often spilled over the country's borders. Until now, that meant shelling of Saudi cities and villages close to the frontier. But the Houthi rebels, who control the capital Sana'a and much of the north of the country, have long threatened to take the war directly to Saudi Arabia. Recent events have made that promise a reality. The group says it is now able to strike major cities in Saudi Arabia. It can reportedly launch missiles from Sana'a in the north of Yemen, close to the Saudi border. The U.S. says a missile fired from there hit an oil refinery in the city of Yanbu, but the Saudis say that is not true. Yanbu is about 900 kilometers from Sana'a, so if that is within the Houthis' range, if that is the case, there are many key oil facilities there, the holy city of Mecca and Jeddah, the country's main commercial port. In fact, the Saudis say they intercepted a missile just south of Mecca on Thursday. The Saudi-led coalition called that launch a desperate attempt to disrupt the upcoming pilgrimage soon. Mohammed Val has more.
Houthi militia in Yemen say this video shows the moment they launched the so-called Burkan 2, a modified Scud missile. They say they were targeting Saudi Arabia's oil refineries near the western city of Yanbu just 5 days ago. Burkan means volcano in Arabic. A similar missile called Burkan 1 was shot down by Saudi air defenses some kilometers away from Islam's holiest city of Mecca. It landed closer to the city of Taif, and the Houthis say the target was a military base in that area. Saudi official media say the aim was to hit Mecca in an attempt to sabotage this year's Hajj pilgrimage, due to take place within a month from now. Since the war started in 2015, the Houthis have launched several missiles deep inside Saudi Arabia. The country blamed these attacks on what it described as the lack of control over the Yemeni port of Hodeidah. It says that's where shipments of arms and weapons are smuggled into Yemen. Saudi attempts to take control of the port have failed. It accuses Iran of supplying the Houthis with sophisticated weapons through the port. The Saudi-led war began with the aim of dislodging the Houthis from Sana'a and restoring the government of President Abdrabbuh Mansur Hadi. But Saudi Arabia and its allies soon sent troops into Yemen. The country is now virtually split into a north ruled by Houthis with their ally former President Ali Abdullah Saleh, while the south is controlled by rival powers that include President Hadi's loyalists, but also separatist militia sponsored by the United Arab Emirates. The UN says over 8,000 civilians have been killed, millions have lost their livelihood, and the cholera epidemic is devastating the population. Mohammed Val, Al Jazeera.
Let's bring in our guest now from Sana'a, Hussein al-Bukhati, a Yemeni political commentator and pro-Houthi journalist. On Skype from Dubai, Oubai Shahbandar, managing director of Orient Media and a former political advisor to the U.S. military special operations forces. And in London, Andreas Krieg, an assistant professor of defense studies at King's College. Welcome to all of you. Andreas, I'm going to start with you. This certainly seems to be an escalation. Would you call it that? Would you characterize it as such?
No, I don't think it's an escalation. It's been ongoing for the last, the war's been ongoing for 2.5 years, and we've seen for more than a year now the ability of the Houthis to actually assemble weapons and use some of the former stockpiles of ballistic missiles from the Republican Guard and fire them towards Saudi Arabia. They've done that time and again, and I think this is just, it shows how unsuccessful the coalition has been over the last 2.5 years to actually destroy these ballistic missiles, because that was one of the key aims of that operation. That's why Saudi Arabia started the operation in March and declared 2 months later that this operation was finished because most of the ballistic missiles had been destroyed. But what we see now is that the Houthis have actually still have that capability. Some of it are old stockpiles, some of them are mobile stockpiles that they are moving around constantly, so thereby avoiding being hit by the Saudi or UAE air power. And then, obviously, I think there have been reports that through Hodeidah, some of these missiles have come through in different parts, disassembled, and then are reassembled in northern Yemen and then fired towards Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
So I think this is an ongoing problem, and I don't think there's a major escalation.
Okay, and we're going to talk about the coalition and the port city, all of those things. But I do want to ask you, though, you're saying it's not an escalation, but does it seem that they've made any advancement or progress in their targeting?
No, they haven't. And
Okay.
that's the funny part about this, or not funny, but we've seen that most of them are like dumb missiles. They're being fired and they don't hit the target. It's a bit trial and error. They, until now, have never been able to actually hit a target properly because they don't know how to use them properly. And I think that this will probably remain this way for the time being.
Hussein, do you agree with that assessment? I can tell you want to get in on it.
I mean, it's really strange when he said it's not an escalation and he called them dumb missiles. If it's like that, why always the Saudi insist in any talks with the Ansarullah, the Houthi and Yemeni army to stop those missiles? And we have heard as well John Kerry have said many times that they must stop those missiles towards Saudi Arabia. If they are dumb missiles and if the Saudi continue to shoot down all these missiles, why they will put them on any talk as something to do first before going before reaching peace into Yemen, and to say that Iran is supplying this missile, and I mean, what about 2 years and 6 months of the Saudi blockade on Yemen? They have destroyed all ports, all airports, and how can they smoke?
Oubai, hold on.
If you let me finish, please. How can they smoke?
Oubai, hold on. Oubai, sir, Oubai,
I mean,
just a moment. Let him finish his point.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Hold on. Are you denying that the Bukhati missiles are coming from Iran?
This means that the Saudi and the United Arab Emirates
Gentlemen, no, sir,
in their blockade in Yemen.
Hussein, both stop, sir, please, sirs. This is not an effective conversation. You both have points to make. Interjecting is fine, but you have to let somebody finish. Hussein, finish your point, and then Oubai, you can get in because I can tell you're clearly passionate about this. But Hussein, quickly wrap up your point, please.
Yeah, okay. If they continue to blame Iran, how come this means that the Saudi blockade as well has failed, if it's true what they say? And as well, we remember that in the first 3 weeks of the Saudi war in Yemen, Al-Asiri, the spokesperson of the Saudi-led coalition, have said that they have destroyed 85 to 90% of missiles capacity in Yemen. And this is really strange. Always they have to blame someone else for any success Ansarullah, the Houthi, have reached or any attack they rage on Saudi Arabia. And the main reason to attack Yemen is they said to stop Iran from
Hussein,
interfering.
enough, please. Oubai, please, get in this.
Okay, look, let me explain to you how the smuggling network of short-range and medium-range ballistic missiles work. Number one, the missile that was launched most recently by the Houthi militias, which are backed by the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, towards the holy city of Mecca is called a Burkan 2 missile. This is what's considered a short to medium-range ballistic missile that the Iranian Revolutionary Guards are able to smuggle in various different pieces and various different components through the city of Hodeidah. Now, the city of Hodeidah is allowed to move in shipments into the port, basically as a humanitarian gesture by the Arab coalition, by the Saudi-led
And quite frankly,
Arab
if I can
coalition.
stop you there, Oubai, that's actually even the humanitarian efforts have really been hampered because of how dangerous things are at that port.
Well, when the Houthi militias are using this humanitarian corridor to move in weapons, to include short-range ballistic missiles that are launched against the holy city of Mecca, let's remember, this ballistic missile was shot down nearly 43 miles south of the holy city of Mecca at the beginning of the Hajj season, of the annual season of the Hajj. Now, the Houthi militias attempted a similar launch just last year at the same time. In fact, they are timing these ballistic missile launches to have maximum political and diplomatic impact. Just a few months ago, one day prior to the visit of President Trump to Riyadh, they also attempted to launch a short-range ballistic missile towards the direction of the city of Riyadh. Now, in all instances, these missiles have been shot down by Patriot anti-ballistic missile batteries. This doesn't mean that the Houthi militias are going to stop. What we've seen here is a signal
all
running
ships are
revolution.
searched by the Saudi-led coalition that goes to Hodeidah.
Use a humanitarian corridor
Yes.
in the port city of Hodeidah to move these missiles and to move these components so that the Houthi militias, which are backed by Iran, can continue to launch these missiles towards both
just a moment.
and the Holy City.
Let me get back to Andres for a moment. Let's talk more about the Patriot missile system. How effective is it?
I think it's proven to be very successful, very effective in countering this capability that the Houthis have acquired. All of the GCC countries have recently acquired these Patriot anti-ballistic missile systems. They're probably the best of what is on the market at the moment. So it has kind of had an impact. But still, I mean, it is something that if you imagine that this would not work effectively, this is a threat. I mean, you cannot have any country living under the threat from ballistic missiles. And I think this is quite a serious Saudi and honest Saudi concern.
What is the message then, or how the Saudis did not want to acknowledge that the possibility that this missile actually hit an oil refinery. They have not acknowledged that at all. But let's just say that it did, because something happened there. What would the psyche be on Saudi Arabia in that instance, Andres?
I mean, it's a huge strategic failure. This entire war is a strategic failure. And Mohammed bin Salman, the new crown prince, has to present this. He has to get out of this quagmire quite quickly to present it as a success. And it's becoming increasingly difficult when you see that the Houthis still fire missiles, potentially hitting, the hydrocarbon sector, which is the key for the Agenda 2030 in Saudi Arabia. So all that Saudi Arabia has to do now is present themselves to investors as a secure country. They can't have a kind of insurgency going on in the southern border that actually threatens Saudi territory. So they need to get this under control. And I think this is exactly what the message is. I think the Houthis are trying to really weaken Saudi Arabia at this very, very sensitive spot. And they're trying to hit there because they know this is going to backfire internationally. This is going to get them the kind of PR attention that they need. And for the Houthis, they don't need to win, right? I mean, for them, disruption is all they need. And this
let me bring in Hussein to speak to that point that Andres is making. Hussein, what is the Houthi strategy? Has it changed? Has it evolved? What is the message they're trying to send?
I think the first message is to show that Saudi-led coalition claim that they have destroyed all ballistic missiles. It shows that they have failed. Just yesterday, they have launched, as they announced, a number of ballistic missiles. So this means not one, not two, it could be 3 to 5 missiles, and to launch them at one time. This show you how they fail in destroying those missiles. And as well, the missiles, every time they reach a new area inside Saudi Arabia, and as well the missiles that was launched on 23rd of July to Yanbu. So this means that Ansarullah, the Houthi, and the Yemeni army strategy now is to strike Saudi main and the backbone of the Saudi economy.
But striking Mecca
will be under threat.
Hussein, striking Mecca, why?
No, look. I will answer about that. You know the Saudi from the beginning they try to use Mecca so they can get countries like Pakistan and other involved in the war. And if you can just stop not interrupting me, so this is how we do this program. So the Saudi have asked Pakistan many times to interfere in this war and other countries, and they refuse. So they want to use Hajj and Mecca. And I mean, Houthi are not so stupid. Who will strike Mecca? It's the holy place of all Muslims. And why will you strike it? I mean, it will only backfire. I mean, no one will think about that. And always to claim about Iran interference in Yemen, and the war was about to stop Iran interference in Yemen. This show you, I mean, the United Arab Emirates claim that Iran is taking 3 islands. Why didn't you fight Iran there? Why you come to fight into Yemen?
Gentlemen,
this show you just the whole point,
enough.
how silly.
Gentlemen, Oubai.
Why are you not asking the question?
No, Oubai, sir, Oubai.
Ballistic missile. Thousands of pilgrims are attempting to come into the.
Yes, stop. Oubai, can you hear me? This is Richelle. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so let's have a quick moment. Let's have a quick moment. We welcome a lively debate. We have you here because of your smarts, your brain. We want that. But no, sir. If we can't even do this now, then it's done. If you and I can't even have a conversation without you interrupting, then we can't do this. So I'm going to ask you respectfully. I'm going to ask you. And unfortunately, I've lost our connection with our guest in Dubai, Oubai Shahbandar, but we're going to continue the conversation right now. And I want to go to you, Andres. The weapons that the Houthis have, there's some thinking that some of these were seized from the stockpile of the Yemeni government. What do you believe about where these weapons are coming from?
I mean, yeah, many of these weapons, they're all stockpiled. Some of them are Soviet-made. They were acquired throughout the 1990s, and they were under the control of the son of the old president, Ali Abdullah Saleh, his son Ahmed Saleh, who was the head of the Republican Guard. And they were under the control of the Republican Guard. And as we know, the Republican Guard dissolved into the Houthis, or was acquired or was cooperating with the Houthis as far back as 2014. And so this is where most of the stockpiles come from. I think that a lot of these stockpiles were destroyed, not all of them, clearly. But I do also think, I mean, there is evidence that the Iranian, the IRGC, have tried to basically get disassembled disassembled ballistic missiles into Yemen, and some of them are those.
How sophisticated
we can't really differentiate
are they?
Now which ones. They could be very sophisticated if used in the proper way. As I said before, I mean, the targeting remains an issue, and I find it highly doubtful that the Houthis were actually trying to target Mecca. I think this is a PR campaign to kind of, in Saudi Arabia, to try to get the international community around embracing this operation. As I said before, obviously the Saudis have the right to defend themselves, but I find it highly doubtful that the Houthis were attacking. They're quite an ideological player, that they were attacking Mecca. I find it quite doubtful. I think they don't know how to aim. They're aiming very close now. I mean, they're coming closer and closer. The range of these missiles is also, I would say, up to 1,000 kilometers from the Yemeni border, depending on where you fire them from. So Mecca is definitely within the range. I find it highly doubtful that they would use it to fire to hit Mecca.
So, Hussein, what is going on at the port in Hodeidah? What is going on there? What is getting through there? It seems quite a bit is.
Like as the Ansarullah, the Houthi, it will be really like stupid to you if they use port of Hodeidah for any military attack on ships, on Saudi military ships or Saudi navies, because what was the main point of about Hodeidah, that because of the failure to even secure Mocha port south of Hodeidah, and they couldn't even advance towards Hodeidah, so they want to use this excuse that the Houthi are using this port as a military base to attack Saudi Arabia. But if we see on the other hand that the focus on this port, all ships is coming to that port, is coming to, are searched by the Saudi. They stopped all ships in Djibouti. So how can they use any of these ships to smuggle weapons into Yemen? But the main thing that especially the United Nations and the UN envoy into Yemen, he's using the spread of cholera in Yemen to have pressure on Ansarullah, the Houthi, and as well the starvation in Yemen, to say, look, you have to hand over Hodeidah so we can fight this. So I mean, you can just send food if you really want to stop all this.
Hussein, okay, so let's talk about the role of the U.S. in this, if anything. One of a major U.S. Major Adrian Ricine Galloway, he's the spokesman for the Pentagon, gave this statement to CNN. It says, The U.S. military's support to the Saudi-led coalition remains in a non-combat advisory and coordinating role. The Department of Defense provides air refueling and shares intelligence with the Saudi-led coalition. Andres, is there a point at which that would change or should change?
It shouldn't change, but we've seen that the Trump administration has taken a much more supportive stance in this Saudi war against Yemen, more than the Obama administration has, for the simple reason that for Mattis and Tillerson and the Trump administration in general, Yemen is a problematic case of where a lot of non-state actors are running around, not just the Houthis, without control, with highly armed and highly ideological. Al-Qaeda, for example, there's Daesh in southern Yemen as well. So in the fight against terror, Yemen has always played a very crucial role and will continue to play this crucial role in U.S. foreign policy and security policy in the region. And I think that's why they've embraced the Yemeni coalition, and they have provided, the Saudi coalition, and they've provided the Saudi coalition with a lot of weapons, and they will continue to do so, unlike the Obama administration that recently basically withdrawn their support. And in this way, whether this is advised or not, I mean, the U.S. is playing a very crucial role in this war, and they've very much played a crucial role in dragging this crisis out. And I just want to get back to what the previous speaker said about Hudaydah. I think Hudaydah is... it has been used for humanitarian aid, but it has also been used for the delivery of weapons. I mean, there are a lot of reports about how IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard, have used shipments which are covered as humanitarian aid to get arms, small arms, but also other smaller pieces of weaponry that can be reassembled on land, have gone from Bandar Abbas, have been transshipped somewhere, potentially in Djibouti, and then have gone from there either to Hamas in Gaza, but has also have gone to Hudaydah. So this is very well recorded. I mean, there are a lot of intelligence reports on this, and the Iranians. This is the way that the IRGC, particularly the Quds Force, operate. So I mean,
Andres,
there is this duality.
Is anybody in a position to put any type of pressure on the Iranians in this regard?
No, because there's also the problem with the IRGC is that they are not really attached to the government. So the government will say we provide ideological support and maybe financial support, but we don't provide support in terms of arms. So because the issue is that the IRGC, the Quds Force, operate almost in isolation and with a lot of autonomy from the central government in Tehran. So even if you put pressure on Tehran, the current elected government does have very little control over the IRGC. Really the control the pressure should go on Ali Khamenei and the religious leadership in Iran, who have direct control over the IRGC.
Hussein, going forward, what would you say the Houthi strategy is now? They seem to the missiles are not stopping. What is the next step? What is their strategy?
I think it seems to be that the next strategy after targeting major Saudi city and especially oil refinery, I think there will be a major attack on Saudi southern cities like Najran, which is I think about 20 kilometers from Yemeni border, and it was almost circled before, but because some agreement Ansar al-Houthi have withdrawn from that area. So I think this is still Ansar al-Houthi and the Yemeni army still have many steps to take, and as well there could be as well missiles not only reaching Saudi Arabia. I'm sure they do have missiles that could reach United Arab Emirates, but of course in a war you don't use all your force at once like the Saudi did. They haven't got anything new to do in Yemen. They have used all weapons. They have used, everything they have. So I think Hussein, the new step, as I said, major city, more attack on Saudi Arabia.
Okay, so one more quick question then. Andres, if what Hussein is saying is accurate, if it is accurate, what does that mean that we would see next from Saudi Arabia?
I agree with him on that point, that Saudi has completely exhausted its capability. There's nothing more they can really do militarily. As I've said for the last 2.5 years, also on this show, the only solution in Yemen has to be a political one. It has to be one where all GCC countries should come together, which is obviously at this point not feasible because there is a blockade against Qatar going on. Even the UAE and Saudi don't agree on a common strategy on Yemen. And so moving forward, I think it will be more tit for tat, which Saudi can never win. The Houthis won't win, but they don't have have to because they're an insurgency group. Their grip on power is increasing because the communities, different communities in Yemen have now given them more support as they realize that the Saudi and the UAE-led government are not really fighting for the interests of Yemenis, but for their own interests. And I think over the last 2 years, the Houthis have actually gotten a lot more support domestically than they had when the war started. So moving forward, we need to have, the international community particularly, we need to work on a political solution because there's absolutely no military solution to this conflict.
All right, and that will be the final word. And thank you, gentlemen, for this lively discussion today. We appreciate it very much. Yemeni political commentator Hussein al-Bukhati and Andreas Krieg of King's College in London, and also as well Orient Media's Oubai Shahbandar. We did lose connection with him earlier in the program. And thank you for watching as well. You can watch again anytime if you go to our website, aljazeera.com. For the discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on Twitter. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. From me, Richelle Carey, and the entire team. Bye for now.